Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order for the Oxnard Public Works and Transportation Committee. If we can take the roll, please.
Member Flynn.
Here.
Member McDonald.
Here.
Chair Perrello.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum, and the agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall kiosk on Tuesday, November 5th.
Okay. I'd like Margaret, if she will, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, but I've had a request to move item 3 and 4 to the front because the people that are here for that item are have an appointment later on. So would the council go along with that? Okay.
Yes.
That's what I'll have. Thank you, Margaret. I don't see cards for public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Items not on the agenda? No? Okay. Moving along to item C1, the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes. Have we had the opportunity to read the minutes?
Yes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? None. Okay. Going to, and again, reordering the agenda. Going to item number 3, the Public Works Department. Subject, award agreement A-8184 to Hewitt Zollers, and I apologize for mispronouncing the name, for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Project. The recommendation, that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend the City Council authorize the mayor to sign and execute agreement A-8184 in the amount of $218,137 to the firm for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Project number 133102/163101.
All right. Good morning, Chair and Committee. My name is Tatiana Arnaud, and I'm the City Engineer within Public Works. I'm here today to present to you the Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Project. The recommendation, as Bert already mentioned, is that the City Council authorize the Mayor to execute Agreement A-8184 in the amount of $218,137 with Hewitt Zollers for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Project numbers 133102 and 163101. Additionally, we would like for them to approve $21,813 for project contingency for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Project. So this project was identified in the 2019 through 2024 5-year capital improvement program. It does combine 2 pedestrian enhancement projects, hence the 2 project numbers, so that we can improve the economy of scale for both the design and the construction phases. The scope is to connect the city's bicycle and pedestrian network by designing Class 2 and 3 bicycle facilities, bicycle detection, curb extension, sidewalk, signage, and striping. The locations include the Northeast Community, which is approximately 16 streets, and Cloyne Street from Channel Islands Boulevard to Hueneme Road. The nearby schools in the Northeast area include Cesar Chavez Elementary, Frank Intermediate, Norman Breck Elementary, Pacifica, Ramon Elementary, Rio Lindo, Rio Rosales Elementary, Rose Avenue Elementary. And over by Cloyne, we have Blackstock Elementary, Larson Elementary, Green Junior High School, Hathaway Elementary, Haycox Elementary, and Hueneme High School. Here are the maps showing the precise locations of where these improvements are anticipated. This project was advertised to prepare the plant specs and estimates on July 15th of this year, with the proposals due on August 14th. We received 3 proposals, and the staff that included myself and the project manager evaluated them for completeness, qualifications, experience, organization, approach, scope of services, schedule of work, conflict of interest, and references. Hewitt Zollers was selected as the most qualified consultant, and the total estimated contract is about $218,000, which does require the City Council approval. We're also identifying a need of a 10% contingency for the amount of about $21,000. So in addition to the local funding from the air pollution buy-down fees and the traffic safety Fund, the projects include the following transportation grants. So for the Northeast Community Project, we have $643,000 from the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Federal Grant, which includes $58,000 for design and another $585,000 for construction. Additionally, we have $93,000 from the Transportation Development Act grant. For the Cloyne Street project, we have $75,000 from the Transportation Development Act regional grant. And we do have sufficient funding available in the projects to award this contract. That concludes this presentation. I'll take any questions.
The striping, is that going to be the newer green striping, or is it going to be the standard white striping?
Yes, we'll be considering green striping wherever it's possible.
Thank you.
You can go to the speakers first.
Two speakers. The first one is Joey Yoza Luamkuchi. I apologize.
That's okay. It's
You just say it, because I
oh, okay. It's Juhas Lukomsky.
would've
My
never-
chicken scratch. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
You can just call me Joey. You can call me Joey JL. Okay, great. Well, first of all, thank you very much, committee members. I'm just here to comment on that map that was just put up. I'm hoping that we can see that map a little bit better. I hope that for these connections, we can put more, think about putting more Class 2 lanes in on streets with speed limits lower than 35 miles per hour, just because Class 3, which are the painted sharrows on the road, are typically pretty ineffective for making bicycling safer or encouraging bicycling. And I hope that with the green paint, we can get that down in the conflict zones, which is where streets intersect or on driveways or wherever someone riding a bike might need to change lanes in a bike lane or something like that. Just hoping that when we're spending this money, when you are spending this money, the city of Oxnard, they're doing things right the first time. And I'll say this again, with this being a really rough year for people biking or walking being hit and killed by automobiles, that we can use this bike infrastructure. I'm the executive director of Bike Ventura, so I'm speaking as a bike advocate, but I know that better and more bike infrastructure can do a lot to slow down cars more generally, and that's just safer for everybody that's using the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Toll, please. The next speaker would be Jackie Tedeschi.
Hey, thank you very much. I really want to thank the committee and the city staff for looking to invest more in bike lanes and prioritize bicycle and pedestrian safety. I think that's really important for our community. But like Joey said, I think that Class 2 and especially Class 3 bike lanes are really, I mean, they're not enough in many cases. On some of these slower streets, Class 2 lanes, your standard bike lane, probably fine. He said the sharrows, I think the evidence is pretty uncertain about whether they actually do anything. Some have seen some reductions in fatality or in accidents. Some have seen increases with sharrows. It's a little hard to tease out. A better option, in my opinion, is to, whenever possible, and it's not always possible given street space, to aim for protected Class 4 bike lanes that actually, put either some sort of space, some sort of barrier between the car and the cyclist. This sort of approach really helps to enable bicycling for all ages and abilities. It's better for children, if children want to bike, the elderly, women. My wife teaches at Cesar Chavez Elementary School, where some of these sharrows are going to go past, and on occasion she'll bike to work. And the first time she did that, one of her students mentioned something like, "Oh, why do you bike? I thought only guys biked." And if that's not an indication of some of the bicycle culture in this city, then I don't know, I don't know what else is. Joey already mentioned the pedestrian bicycle deaths this year. I think that protected lanes would, really help to stop some of this. And many of these accidents are not unavoidable. They're really results of the design decisions that we make with our infrastructure. putting class 2 unprotected bike lanes right next to where semis drive is really just asking for trouble. Woolley is an example of, a tragedy that happened very recently. And to close out, I just want to say that this goes, much broader than just safety. It's a public health issue. If we're in, more higher quality lanes, encourage more people to bike. They protect folks. It's a public health, encourages, healthier population if they're more active in their transportation, and also climate change, elephant in the room. The Air Resources Board estimates that we need to reduce vehicle miles traveled by like 25 to 35% by 2030. That's not going to happen without really active prioritization of non-automobile modes of transportation. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Jackie Tedeschi, please.
Good morning. Okay, I'm a resident of the South Bank neighborhood, and South Bank neighborhood is on the West Ventura Road, the 101 freeway on the south of the 101, and then Oxnard Boulevard, and then Vineyard, which is on the south. And when I travel just in the car, okay, as far as with the car, the people aren't even paying attention to where the bike lanes are on Vineyard. And if you take Vineyard West and you go to Patterson, and you take Patterson, you're doing a curve, and you're going over to Gonzales, which that's near the Oxnard High School. The people aren't even paying attention where things are marked. Now, as far as the Rio del Norte School, which is in my neighborhood, I haven't seen people even biking. And if they own a bike, they're sure not using it. Now, I actually can still ride a bike, even though I have it in the garage. I'd sell it because you couldn't pay me to ride a bike. Now, I know that's sarcastic, but still, it's very dangerous. You're up against a 2,000 to 3,000 pound vehicle. And as far as the markings, yes, the city has been marking more of the neighborhoods with the proper status and funding, but the people just aren't paying attention. So I hope that our police are stretched real thin, but I wish that they would sort of be to the side, shall I say, and watch how people are observing the bike lanes with driving and with biking. And yes, we're trying to stop air pollution, but that's a safety issue. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation. I just want to express some comments and concerns that I have citywide, and some of it reflects some of the comments that were made by those who spoke. I was a teacher at Pacifica High School for 5 years and taught in the Oxnard Union High School District for 25 years. And one of the most foretelling signs of the lack of bike culture here in the city of Oxnard was that in front of Pacifica High School, a school designed for 2,400 students, but with an enrollment of 3,400 students, 3,400 students, there were 16 bike racks and maybe 8 bikes in the 16 bike racks. 3,600 students and just that many bike racks. So while I applaud this effort and our efforts to bolster a biking culture and the availability of safe bike lanes for those individuals that do have bikes, I have an overall concern about how we're approaching the public here in the city of Oxnard to promote a bike culture. I'll end by saying the New York Times had an article over the weekend about Copenhagen, and in Copenhagen, Denmark, 49% of every single trip to work, shopping, to school, to every single trip in Copenhagen, 49% are on bikes. And the reasons that were listed were quite interesting, and they were that global warming and air pollution were at the very bottom of the list. You would think it would be at the top of the list, but it was at the very bottom of the list. It was about the convenience, health perhaps. There are other factors that drive into that, and with a younger population in this city in particular that is very much at risk for diabetes and a variety of other things, I just think I'm looking at that level of this biking presentation here today. And so my concern is, what are we doing as a city other than creating new lanes, new bike lanes, and new availability? What are we doing to promote a bike culture in Oxnard?
Mr. Mayor, Rosemarie Gaglione, Public Works Director. So Public Works, we need to provide the infrastructure and the opportunities for people to make the choice to bicycle. I'm going to give these gentlemen my card before they leave, because we've been missing a dialogue between the biking community and the city. So the best thing, in my mind, that we can do is provide those opportunities so that people who desire to bike will then do that. These community organizations typically do a great job of encouraging folks to ride, but we do need to provide the infrastructure for that to happen. Some places in Europe, they've been bicycling for so long, it's just part of their culture. We're not there yet. I believe up in Santa Barbara County, Goleta had a 6% commuter rate, which was the highest in the county at the time. That's 6% in an area that it's a lot easier to bike in. So I think that will be a slow process, and we will do our best we'll apply for grants. We're looking at redoing the Bike and Ped plan, and we'll look at closing these gaps so that people can make the choices to walk, they can make the choice to bike, and that things will be as safe as possible. We will have limitations going forward. Understand that we don't have road stretchers, right? We have the real estate that we have, and so sometimes there's tough choices to be made. If you want a Class 2 instead of a Class 3, what are you going to give up? And very often, you give up parking to make room for that. And we know in Oxnard, parking then is another big issue. So, but as slowly as people, if you get more people biking, maybe you'll have fewer people driving, and that will open up some of those parking spaces.
Thank you very much. And just a quick reply, I appreciate the direct answer, and I would think that it would be the job of this committee and or the city council at some point to visit this issue from a perspective of, let's say our figure, if in an area like you mentioned in Santa Barbara County is at 6%, and it's much more conducive there to a bike culture and the availability of bike lanes, that if we're at 1% or 2%, whatever that figure is, I think the city council should figure out, look, if this is really important, which I think it is, then what are our goals? If we're at 1% or 2%, can we double it? Can we go to 4%? And if so, how have other cities done that?
Absolutely, and as we go through overlays and slurries, staff should be looking at how we can improve bike lanes, not just repeat the same striping, but get in there and look to see, are there any improvements that we can make that will make it safer and more enjoyable for cyclists?
Mr. Chair, if I may make a quick comment. So if you attend our Future of Mobility lecture tomorrow night at Oxnard College at 6:30, you'll hear a discussion about how the future of mobility will also impact bicycle culture as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more speaker, Margaret Matthews, please. And before she comes to the podium, this city manager will give the time, date, and how you can attend if anybody's not aware of it. Go ahead, Margaret.
Thank you for letting me speak at this last minute, but I have a couple of ideas how to facilitate a bike culture here in the city.
Pull the microphone closer to you.
Pardon?
Pull the microphone.
Oh. There you go. First of all, it might be advantageous for the city to partner with the existing clubs that are working for safety and bike culture, such as Bike Ventura and the Channel Islands Bicycle Club. Also, for the planning, I don't know who does the planning, but all of the new construction going around town should be planned with bicycle facilities, bicycle lanes. For example, the Wagon Wheel, there's a bicycle lane there, but it's so narrow, even the cars can't get through there. So those are just two ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Go.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm I'm excited about this. I'll support this, but I would like to see us maybe look to expanding some areas. And a couple times I've asked about Harbor Boulevard south of the Channel Islands Bridge, which on the weekend, the beach community seems to be really bike intensive. And I've asked about green striping along there, and especially on Sundays with the farmer's market, even though Harbor Boulevard has posted no parking, people tend to park in what we call the bike lane. I don't know if we waive it or not, but it makes it a challenge. So I'd like to see, if we do nothing else, maybe look at some green striping and checking out the parking. I know on the times when I've been in Washington DC, I'm usually there a couple times a year. They've done an interesting thing where they've taken a protected bike lane and put it down the middle of the streets. And the only way to get into that area is on a bicycle, and it seems to work really well, but they have the real estate that we don't have in terms of streets and stuff, so. But I'd like to see us look outside the box, but I'd also like to see us focus on the communities that tend to be more bike-friendly already, and that's typically the beach communities, so. But otherwise, good report. I intend on supporting this, but I'd like to see maybe the next step towards the future on this, so.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Can you just very quickly give the definition between Class 1, Class 2, Class 3 bike lane?
Yes, so it just depends. It has to do with the striping that's being laid down on the floor, right? So class 1 is, I guess you could go from least protected to most protected. When you get up to class 4, that means that you have some sort of physical barrier between the vehicles and the bicyclists. And then it progresses down from that to where you just have, I don't know if you've seen the symbols with, it'll be a dash line bicyclist and then a dash line, that's a class 1. That pretty much doesn't do anything other than say to vehicles that there might be a bicyclist there at any given point.
Okay, thank you. On this particular, I support this item, but on this particular item, do we have a time expectations of how long, once this project starts, it'll take to complete it?
Let me ask the project manager. I have her here. 6 months design? It's a 6 month design period.
Okay, and
Construction would probably be another, call it 4 to 6 months after that.
okay, and I appreciate the comment from the member of the public that said doing the right thing the first time. That's the city is getting a lot better along that line. But I'd like to bring personal observations. I live off Vineyard Avenue. It's been repaved. It's a fantastic job. There is a lane there. That lane has become another lane for automobiles, especially in the morning when people decide to race up. And so maybe we could designate, and I know the police have high priority things to do other than the bicycles, but all it takes is one accident. And with the number of white bicycles at various locations throughout our city and our county, we know that when it comes between a bicyclist and a car, you can figure out what's going to happen. It's bad. But I'd like to address this to the bicycle community when your outreach. When I come back from a meeting, say in the evening, and it's dark, especially this time of year, and I see a bicyclist riding in the bicycle lane, no light colored clothing, no reflective, anything, it comes as a big shock. But nowhere near the biggest shock as when you see a jogger dressed in dark running in the same lane, and you come upon him and it's like, holy Toledo guy, do you realize what you're doing? But I support this. I support the efforts of your bicycle groups, and thank you for asking it to be moved up so that you have an opportunity to speak. Appreciate your comments. Do we have a recommendation on this, guys?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion unanimously passes. Item number 4. The subject, appropriate funds for C Street Bicycle Facilities Installation Project number 133103 and Oxnard Boulevard Bicycle Facilities Installation Project number 183101. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee approve a budget appropriation in the total amount of $169,494 from the fund balance of the Air Pollution Buy-Down Fee Fund, number 118, to the following projects. $62,821 for the C Street Bicycle Facilities Installation Project, number 133103, and $106,673 for the Oxnard Boulevard Bicycle Facilities Installation Project, 183101.
All right. Again, my name is Tatiana Arnaud, City Engineer within Public Works, here to present to you the C Street bicycle facilities as well as the Oxnard Boulevard bicycle facilities projects. So we are asking this committee to recommend to City Council that they approve a budget appropriation in the total amount of $169,494 from the Air Pollution Buy-Down Fee Fund 118. 62,800 of that for the C Street Bicycle Facilities Installation Project number 133103, and another 107,000 for the Oxnard Boulevard Bicycle Facilities Installation Project number 183101. These two projects were both identified in the 2019 to the 2024 5-year capital improvement program. The scope is very similar for both of these projects. C Street Bicycle Facilities includes designing 9 miles of Class 2 and 3 bicycle facilities, signage and striping, while the Oxnard Boulevard Bicycle Facilities Installation Project includes designing about 15,000 feet of Class 2 in both directions on Oxnard Boulevard from the 101 to Gonzales Road, and then another 950 feet of new sidewalk on the west side of Oxnard Boulevard from Orchard Place to the Vineyard Plaza Shopping Center, as well as the design of a new traffic signal at the intersection of Orchard Place and Oxnard Boulevard. This is by the old Levitz building area, approximately. So the project locations along Oxnard or along C Street include C Street from Gonzales Road to Wainimi Road, Hill Street from C Street to Novato Drive, and then G Street / Hemlock area from Woolley to Patterson Road. And now the locations along Oxnard Boulevard include Oxnard Boulevard from the 101 down to Gonzales, that's where the 15,000 feet of Class 2 is going. Oxnard Boulevard from Orchard Place to Vineyard, where there's the 950 feet of new sidewalk, and then the new signal over at the intersection of Oxnard and Orchard Place. So this project was advertised for plan specs and estimates on July 15th, and those proposals were due on August 14th. The city did receive 5 proposals for these 2 projects. Staff that included myself, the project manager, and the city traffic engineer, we all evaluated each of the project proposals for completeness, qualifications and experience, organization and approach, scope of services, schedule of work, conflict of interest, and their references. For C Street, we did select M&S Engineers as the most qualified consultant. Their estimated contract is $108,000. For the Oxnard Boulevard Bicycle Facilities Project, Hewitt Zollers was selected as the most qualified, and their total estimated contract is $195,000. In addition to the existing local funding from the Air Pollution Buy-Down Fee, the 2 projects include the transportation grants for the design phase. C Street has a $28,000 congestion mitigation air quality federal grant, while Oxnard Boulevard has a $100,000 congestion mitigation air quality federal grant. In order to award these 2 contracts, we are requesting an additional air pollution buy-down fee from Fund 118 as follows: about $63,000 for C Street and another $107,000 for the Oxnard Boulevard Bicycles Facilities Project. That concludes the presentation. I'll take any questions.
We have 2 speaker cards. Is there any questions or clarification from the? Okay, the first speaker is Joey.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you so much for moving this item up. I have to go to a board meeting here in 5 minutes, so I'm going to have to run right after this comment, but I hope that you are able to have kind of a robust discussion around some of this. So if you look at that C Street project, I mean, that really is a potential spine for what would be a real bicycle network in the city of Oxnard. And this map with this proposed project with this line, it's unclear to me where the Class 2 versus where the Class 3 lanes would be, and not to be pedantic at all, but Class 1 is an off-street bike path, much like the one that goes from Ventura to Ojai. Class 2 is going to be an on-street painted bike lane, and then Class 3 is going to be like those sharrows, just those chevrons above a painted bicyclists. And then class 4 is an on-street bike lane with some physical barrier. So with this, I was at the installation of one of these white bicycles last week right on C Street. It was at night. It was very dark. I hear what you're saying about a lot of people riding bikes without lights. And I don't see room there. It's also the bus goes up in there a little bit as well. So I don't see a lot of room there for a class 2 lane, which is where it would be really useful unless there was some parking removal. So, and that's when things start to get really difficult, right? That's when we're not talking about consent calendar stuff anymore. So I'd be interested to see and know where the class 2 versus where there'll be a bike lane versus where there'll just be these painted sharrows where someone on a bike is supposed to just kind of ride basically with cars and maybe off a little bit to the right. I don't think, as was said, I don't think that's very effective for safety. A couple things that's cool that Bike Ventura, my organization, is doing. We received a $5,000 grant from Union Pacific. We're going to spend all that money in the city of Oxnard doing bike rodeos at elementary schools, teaching youth bike safety. So the first one is going to be at Harrington Elementary School in January, and then we're going to work with a few others. I hope that it kind of catches on. We're looking to open one of our bike shops in downtown Oxnard, where we teach people how to fix their bikes, and doing a lot to kind of facilitate a bicycling community. And we talk about a bicycling community a lot. I also want to remind everyone that there's people that just simply don't have a choice other than riding the bus or riding a bike to work or errands or wherever. And I would like to do a light distribution down here as well. So with that, I just want to say we can do a lot of this stuff with a bike community, but you need some sort of network, a safe network to say, okay, kids, we taught you this safety stuff. Now go ride somewhere safe. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. If you could leave your contact, maybe you could get an answer from the engineer if you have to leave right away.
Yeah, I just gave him my card. But anyway, I thank you all very much.
Thank you. The next speaker, Christopher Toll.
Hi, thanks again. So a couple comments on this one. The Oxnard Boulevard project in particular strikes me as frankly dangerous. So, that section of Oxnard Boulevard goes, the speed limit is 50. Cars definitely go faster than 50 sometimes on that section of the street. So putting an unprotected, class 2 lane right there just does not sit right. So I'll leave that at that. Actually, I won't leave it at that. So another thing is that, this is sort of, in many ways, with the collection there, it's sort of the gateway to Oxnard, or one of the gateways at least. And I think it'd be, how great would it be, you pull off the 101, in your car, right? And the first thing you see, though, is, bright green bike stripe, protected, showing the dedication of the city to high-quality bike infrastructure. For the C Street project, I do understand it's a bit more space constrained. It's also lower speed, so class 2 and sometimes class 3 might be fine there. I would say, as Joey mentioned, it's such a nice spine right down the middle of the city. It's an opportunity to sort of have some imagination for what a multimodal corridor through the city could look like, if it's enough thought and community involvement is put into it. I also volunteer with a group called the Ventura County Climate Hub. One of our members put together there's a free tool online called Street Mix, I think, that allows you to, given a street width, sort of imagine what that would look like. I emailed that out to all three of you and to Michelle before the meeting. If you want to take a look at the images, if you want to build protected lanes, you probably will need to eliminate some street parking. I feel like C Street, again, it's going to vary along the length of the street, but some of it is not strictly necessary street parking. Like some of the area right here, people park on the street, but there's plenty of parking on the side. There's parking lots. Even if you could eliminate parking on one side of the street, build a protected bike lane, that's something beneficial. And I guess I'll end with Mayor Flynn. You mentioned Denmark, Netherlands and Denmark. are sort of two of the examples that people highlight a lot. But another example that, you know, has gotten some publicity in the last several years is Seville, Spain. They started with a bike rate of around 1%, bike commuting rate of like 1%. In the course of several years, you know, they had some funding come in, they had political chips line up, they built 75 miles of protected bike lane in a few years. They increased their ridership by 11% in a few years. So, I mean, these things are possible if with the right imagination and political will. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments?
Just one comment. I am really happy to see you're considering putting a signal in at Orchard and Oxnard Boulevard, because people are taking their lives in their hands, especially at the peak hours, trying to turn left and go from eastbound to northbound on the boulevard. With that dip under the railroad tracks, sometimes you don't see the speeding bullets coming southbound until it's a little bit too late. So I really appreciate the fact that we're looking at a signal there. Thank you.
There is another speaker. Sorry, Jackie Tedeschi. I apologize.
I'll forgive you, maybe. I'm especially happy with the signal at Orchard Park, like you, Council Member Brian McDonald, or committee member, because South Bank encompasses Oxnard Boulevard and going south to Vineyard. I have a friend, actually his name is Frank Nielsen, and he used to live in the mobile home park there. And it was very challenging for him to come out and be safe, and also, he also rides a bike. Now, when people come from the Esplanade at the Walmart or Home Depot, and they go down Oxnard Boulevard going south, they need to stop, and they're going like bats out of blazes. And also people that come out of the wagon wheel, okay, they also go south on Oxnard Boulevard. So I think that is a wonderful thing. Also, if anybody goes to Walgreens, a lot of people take the right-hand turn and go north on Oxnard Boulevard. They get over in the left-hand lane, and they scooch around, go through the mobile home park, come out and do a zip and go back down south to Oxnard Boulevard. I mean, on Oxnard Boulevard to Vineyard. So that's a great signal. So I'm very happy on that. So thank you very much.
So again, I apologize, I didn't call the speaker up at the time. I would like to just let the residents know, I live in the South Bank neighborhood. From moving into the area in March of '98 and getting to know people at the Meadow Lake Mobile Home Park and in the apartments, that was one scary place to come out of Orchard Park. And that's in the daytime. At night, the only, as Councilman McDonald said, when people come in that dip, the only heads up you have is you pray to God they had their headlights turned on, because they were on top of you. And that's from being in a car. There are people that cross that street on foot, and you see them stuck in the middle sometimes. So tremendous improvement. Along with that, when can we expect to see progress on that project and a completion?
The project schedule is very similar to item D3, which is about 6 months each, design and construction.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Those are my comments. What do you recommend? Okay.
Move the item.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is recommendations for space. Items for future agendas. Do we have any?
Actually, can we go back to items 1 and 2, please? It's a phony Monday, that's why. It's okay.
Yeah, I apologize, committee. Yes, item 1. Thank you, City Manager. Item 1 on the agenda. Approval of agreement for on-call professional engineering services. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute. Number 1, agreement A-8177 with Encompass Consultant Incorporated Inc. for the on-call professional engineering and surveying services for a 3-year term not to exceed $500,000. And number 2, agreement A-8178 with Garnett Fleming Incorporated for on-call professional engineering services for a 3-year term not to exceed $250,000.
All right, as you know, I am Tatiana Arnaud, City Engineer, Public Works, here to present the Master On-Call Professional Engineering Services. We're looking for a recommendation that this committee recommend to the City Council to approve and authorize the mayor to execute 2 agreements. One with ECG for a 3-year term not to exceed $500,000, and then another with Gannett Fleming for a 3-year term not to exceed $250,000. On October 18th of last year, the Public Works Department issued a request for proposals for Master On-Call Engineering Services. The RFQ solicited proposals for professional services on various projects that include project management, civil engineering, geotechnical engineering, traffic engineering, surveying, landscape architecture and design, environmental planning and permitting services, engineering plan review, and finally, construction management and inspection and testing. These services are honestly just necessary due to the staff levels within the engineering division and also to meet the specialized nature of the projects that we're working with. A panel that consisted of the previous city engineer and myself selected 32 firms that best met the city's criteria from the RFP. These included Kennedy Jenks, Philippin, M&S, Wallace Group, AECOM, Dawkin, Hewitt Zollers, Kieran Wright, and Interwest. Additional agreements will be brought forward to the committee and council on an as-needed basis of those 32 firms. So at this time, we are requesting to establish the following agreements with Encompass Consulting Group for their 3-year term in the amount of $500,000 for the scope that includes engineering and surveying services. And separately, another with Gannett Fleming for a term of 3 years in the amount of $250,000 for engineering services. As you know, we have previously brought a few of these forward to you, and those include AECOM for a term of 3 years in the amount of $750,000, Dawkin for a term of 3 years in the amount of $250,000, Philippin for a 3-year term in the amount of $250,000, Hewitt Zollers for a 3-year term in the amount of $500,000, and Interwest for a 3-year term in the amount of $1 million. As well as Kennedy Jenks for 3 years and $750,000, Kieran Wright for 3 years for $250,000, M&S for 3 years for $750,000, and Wallace Group for 3 years and $1 million agreement. Work under this agreement will be assigned by task order basis for any project and operational needs, and a cost proposal will be obtained for each assigned task order at the contractual rates, and each task order will be approved per city standard practices. That concludes this presentation. I'll take any questions.
I have just one question. I noticed that we don't have a mandatory pre-bid meeting. A lot of public works contracts with other agencies that I look at do have the mandatory pre-bid meetings. And the reason I ask this is within the last couple of years, we went through a project down Hueneme Road, I think it was, and we got change ordered to death on that. And I think that perhaps if we'd have had a pre-bid meeting, we may have been able to ferret some of that out ahead of time and saved ourselves a lot of grief. So I just don't know if there's any advantage to a mandatory pre-bid meeting or not. So I just kind of thought I'd throw it out there.
So just to clarify a little bit, this is for professional engineering services for construction contracts such as I think you're talking about the Hueneme Pipeline Phase 1. Yes, so for projects of that complex nature, we are requiring pre-bid meetings moving forward. So anything of that nature, absolutely. With these on-calls, what we do is we actually typically will ask 3 of the firms that are on that list, depending on what category we're looking to have the services under, And we asked them to come meet with us to look at the scope and the project site before they actually prepare proposals. And then we take a look at all 3 proposals and select the most qualified out of our on-calls that we already have. What that does is it saves us the time of having to come back to you guys to put together an agreement and award that agreement. That means that they would have already had their agreement in place. All we're doing is facilitating the work to move forward in a quicker manner. But we do, we meet with them beforehand.
Thank you.
This is a public, no, I see no public comment cards here, so, okay, I just have one question of the city manager on this one. This sounds like a best business practice. And would you describe it that way?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Move approval.
Second?
City clerk, when do you want the roll call and when do you want?
Just say.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Going to number 2. Number 2, award agreement A-8150 with MNS Engineering for the construction inspection services for the OWTP Emergency Repair Project. Recommendation that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute agreement A-8150 in the amount of $248,944 with MNS Engineers Incorporated for construction inspection services on the Oxnard Wastewater Treatment Plant, the OWTP Emergency Repairs Project number 18-04.
All right. Chair, committee, again, my name is Tatiana Arnaud, city engineer with Public Works within the city of Oxnard. Here to present to you the award of the agreement A8150 with MNS for construction inspection services for the Oxnard Wastewater Treatment Plant Emergency Repairs Project. We're asking that the committee recommend to City Council to approve and authorize the mayor to execute this agreement in the amount of about $250,000 with MNS Engineers for construction inspection services for the ongoing Oxnard Wastewater Treatment Plant Emergency Repairs Project. So back in September of last year, the city issued a notice of inviting formal bids for the emergency repairs project. This specific work included primary clarifier improvements and walkway bridge replacements, a new chemically enhanced primary treatment facility, bio towers, structural improvements, replacement of 4 belt filter presses and related controls, a new heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system for the lab, and a new sprinkler system for solids processing. These improvements actually came out of a report that said that about 28% of the facility was in very poor condition, while the remaining facility was somewhere in the moderate to poor condition in general. On November 20th, the city received 4 bids for the above-mentioned scope, and on February 5th, the council awarded the contract to the lowest bidder, which was GSE Construction. So then February 6th of this year, the city issued a request for proposal for the Oxnard Wastewater Treatment Plant Emergency Repairs Project, construction inspection services. The specific work for this contract includes services which will provide assurance that the construction being performed is in conformance with the contract specifications, the standard specification for public works construction, which is our green book, that's what we refer it to. The city reviewed the 4 proposals that were submitted for the scope of work. Those other firms include Twining, Premier, and Four Leaf. We selected M&S Engineers as the most qualified firm to perform this work. The staff that reviewed these proposals were 3 project managers at the time. The financial impact to this is that currently there's sufficient funding available in the amount of $790,000 within the Emergency Repairs Project 196602, and we are not asking for an appropriation at this time. That concludes this presentation.
Again, this is public. I have no speaker cards. Okay, thank you. Any speaker cards? I have none, so comments by the council.
I just have, I have a comment, not a question. And in your presentation, you had mentioned about, the assessment of the wastewater facility. And I think it would be great just to direct my comments not only to the public works staff, but also the city manager, that the council will have a better understanding and not a lengthy presentation on where is the wastewater plant now. You know, we passed a rate increase, and I think it would be helpful for all the council members to really have a better understanding about where we are, and I think more in the terms of a dashboard rather than a technical presentation.
Good morning, Council. My name is Tian, Assistant Public Works Director. Staff will be happy to bring forward an update where we at the wastewater treatment plants and, you know, the projects that we've been completing in the near future.
Thank you very much.
I support this project. I appreciate the staff's presentation. I gave a couple of suggestions to Ms. Aronut, and she blown me out of the water, did a good job here. Thank you. Looking for a direction.
Move the recommended action.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any opposition? Abstentions? Passed unanimously. Next item, items for future agendas. And we have a late member for the public. We rearranged the agenda. 3 and 4 have gone earlier in the evening. Do we have any recommendations for future agendas? None? Okay. Okay. With that, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.